I apologize, a couple minutes late, but we had a meeting going on too. I had a meeting. Let's call our meeting to order at 7:06. I don't mind the discussion. I like hearing about the canoe and the tube riding. Christine's been hard at work, but the minutes aren't quite ready for
I thought I hadn't
review.
finished, I apologize.
So we are going to put that off into the next, and we're going to jump right in with Steel Road drainage. The fast forward or rewind, however you want to recall, before the November election in October, we had a town meeting, appropriated $225,000 to redo the southern mile section of Steel Road, what I believe is the worst road in town. It 2 years ago had the worst buckling and frost heaves that we've ever seen. Of course, this past winter we got a little relief because the winter wasn't so bad. But after that, 2 years ago, we really started pursuing that. And we know that we generally don't even do that much paving in any one single year. So we did a special appropriation. At that October meeting, the input we received from our constituents is, A, take your time, B, do the drainage right. So as a result of that, which we discussed a couple times before during the budget process, we put money into our town budget to help get professional help on drainage. So with the help of our consulting engineers at Lennard, we have recommendations. I have recommendations made, and we had Roger Lennard and our town foreman, Doug Spencer, myself, Rista Malanka, who also functions as our wetlands enforcement agent, and obviously does P&Z too, up and down Steel Road, starting at Ross's all the way down by the Pine Hill Road. There are a sum total, I believe, of 10 cross pipes in the road that go from Ross's up to Ann Austin's at the base of the hill. And our goal was to get as far up the road as we can, and taking our constituents' advice, get as much of that drainage done, evaluated, replaced in the best possible way. So we had Roger make recommendations, and we asked for bids from Hemlock and CBC, the two large contractors in the area that are qualified to do the job. And I've got bids from both of those contractors who are prepared to start work on the job. I also asked our town engineer to review the bids. So the letter from Lennard states that they believe, based on a review, and if you'd like I'll read you the thing, based on a review of the bids that we've received from Camp Village Construction Company and Hemlock Construction Company, Inc. for drainage improvements on Steel Road, I recommend the town of New Hartford hire Hemlock Construction, Inc. to perform the culvert replacements and associated drainage improvements. I would recommend using reinforced concrete pipe as opposed to the plastic, which Hemlock bid both ways. For the cross culverts, my review was based on the prices provided by Hemlock Construction for installation of RCP. When I asked them for bids, I asked them to bid on 8 of the 10 crossings. 2 of the largest pipes are so big that they would easily exceed our budget. That is the southernmost pipe crossing at Ross's and the northernmost pipe crossing at Austin's or Storkerson's, who is on the other side. The recommendation for those 2 crossings are large box culverts. The one of which, if I could just tell you, at Storkerson is an 11-foot wide, 4-foot tall box culvert that would go under that would easily exceed our budget. And I'll just tell you that the crossing at Woodchuck Lane, which I'll tell you about, and we talked about at length during our budget deliberations, was $20,000. Now you know that we only allocated $60,000 in our budget to help. So I asked for these contractors to review these budgets, and I asked them to bid per crossing, so that we would be able to find out what we can afford, not knowing whether or not it would be under or over the budget.
A la carte?
A la carte,
Right.
That's right. So to continue on with Roger's letter, Hemlock Construction Company's proposal to raise a portion of the road in the vicinity of crossings 4 and 5 to obtain sufficient cover over the culvert pipes and provide better culvert discharge capacity appears reasonable. Now what happened here is that Tim Traub, who owns Hemlock Construction, is also an engineer, surveyed the entire area, and what he found is that the engineer's recommendation to use larger pipes in certain area would exceed the top of the current elevation of the road. So fill has to be brought in. So he made a recommendation in certain areas to raise the elevation of the road north of what is now Matt and Joey Norton's place, the old Dumont home, going north for, I think, 300 to 400 feet, where there's a little swale there, and there are two pipes. If you replace a 15-inch pipe with a 24-inch pipe that is only a couple inches under the ground, what happens? You see the pipe over the road.
It'll probably provide for better drainage if you raise it too.
In that area.
For the future, you know, and for the longevity of lasting on it.
The town should direct them to proceed with the proposed vertical change of the road with the understanding that the town will provide some of the necessary gravel fill material. Because both companies are local and have worked for the town in the past, I do not undertake any reference or credit checks. In other words, they're both reputable contractors.
Right.
With them to be advised that the town should allow for $3,000 to $5,000 for contingencies in the event that rock or unsuitable material is encountered. If you have any questions, call me. So what he did, and I could just give you a brief, is Hemlock Construction's bid using the HDPE, which is the plastic pipe, came out to $42,267 to do the 8 of the 10 crossings starting at Stetton. To use the RCP, the reinforced concrete pipe, $44,950. Okay. Now, Canton Constructions, which is individual, I believe I totaled up, was roughly $56,000. So clearly, Hemlock Construction was the low bidder, and both are reputable firms. We have a letter from our engineer recommending that we hire Hemlock Construction to do the work. I've already talked to...
He's done a great job in the center of town here with the sewer work and...
Both these contractors have bid jobs for me in the past. Hemlock Construction also bid on the salt shed, but was not the low. They bid on the landscaping job over at Browns Corner, but were not the low bidder. But they did bid on the Brook Street sewer job over in the river over here, and we're the low contractor. Did a good job.
Yeah, it looks nice. He did do a good job.
So
Tim is, you know, puts his money where his mouth is. You know, he has a good reputation in the industry. He does a lot of DOT work, and so
and he's a town resident.
And he's a town resident, and he's $10,000 less.
Well,
or more.
The thing that the engineer said is that the impact of hiring him at roughly $45,000 is that he believes that the estimated fill required to raise the road in that area could be roughly $15,000. So you're talking about a total contract award of in between $58,000 to $60,000 to cure the elevation problem, replace those pipes in the middle, and get this project going. We really don't have the town crew. It would take months. He is also available to start the job now. So if we award him the contract today, we could possibly have the paperwork in town hall by the end of the week, signed. He could be ordering, moving forward.
We could, because we want to make the paving season for it by
we want to get it. We want to get it in the hot August sunshine. You know, plus we have a little more tree work to do there. You know,
we want to get it done before the end of the year.
So I'm happy with it. Obviously, whenever you get town contractors, only one guy can win. You know, but maybe next time it'll be CVC's turn. But this time, you know, if some of you wanted to formalize this, we could move it with a motion and codify the agreement.
I would motion that we accept the low bid of Hemlock Construction for the 8 drainage crossings on Steel Road.
Motion, you have a second?
Second, and including the raising the road.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. You want to put it? Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
You have a second? Because knowing that, all I'll say is that we have a motion and a second, and we'll have a little discussion. All I'll say is that when you get into buying fill, obviously if we get to the $60,000 threshold, anything that we do over that will have to deal with town highway funds, which we have budget there. Sure. But we'll keep an eye on it, try and keep it as close as we can to $60,000. You never know. So, do you have any other questions or concerns? All those in favor of voting yes to hire Hemlock Construction, say aye.
Aye.
Show the vote is unanimous. That's good news. We're going to be sending out notices. I talked to Tim, and one of the things that he talked about is obviously to take a week or two to get the materials and get all the new catch basins and the pipes down there, is the desirability to actually close the road.
Notice the property owner.
That's notice to the property owners, because as he says, the work will go twice as fast if they're not dodging cars. Local traffic only during the construction period,
Right.
and get it done, rather than having it take, 6 weeks. Maybe we can get it done in 3 weeks, something like that. And have them go full out in only local traffic.
I agree with you. I totally agree.
And just get the job
Well,
done.
it makes it safer for everybody involved too.
Well, that's what he says too, is, because people come around those corners down there and
Just don't let people use it as a cut through,
Okay, so that's good news. And I have let our paving contractor know that this is upcoming, so he's gonna be keeping an eye on that. Okay, without objection, I'd like to move the USDA change order contract, because A, it's in my office, and B, it's quite lengthy, down to the end of the agenda. If you guys don't have a problem with that, we can come back to that.
That's fine.
And we can move on, because Christine's here, is gonna give us a little presentation. We've been talking about modifying the town's website with the Economic Development Commission for several months, trying to communicate better with our constituents. Christine has been spearheading. We have Jim Brett and Shelley Lloyd from the EDC. Donna. Well,
Yeah.
everybody in town hall has been consulted trying to move forward, but Christine has been doing a lot of the heavy lifting here on this, so she's going to give us a little presentation about how the process evolved and what her search has found.
The Economic Development Commission has been discussing for several months the need to have a better website that showcases New Hartford better than what we currently have. I think all of us would agree that the website that we have, although it may be somewhat informational, isn't as pretty as it could be. And we'd like to see something that can show off New Hartford a little bit better to those outsiders who are looking maybe to come to Hartford. So we have been, the EDC kind of put together specifications. Jim Brett from the EDC did a lot of work and put together timeframes and specifications of what he thought the town would need for a good website, and discussed with our IT person, Kurt Lang, who's also been involved in this process. And we have had a few meetings, and Donna was kind enough to send out to all the town clerks in the state through her listserv, asking them what vendors they use for websites. And we compiled all that information. I actually went through and took the emails that Donna had received and went through almost every single email that was received and looked at every single website from the towns that responded. And the majority of the towns we found are using two different vendors. One is Virtual Towns and Schools, and the other is a vendor called QSend. So we actually brought both of those vendors in for a meeting where members of the EDC, Shelley Lloyd, Jim Brett, Dave Childs was there, Donna was there, Beth Paul, and myself, and I think that was about it, right? And Kurt, our IT person, were all present for the presentations from both companies. Both products were very similar. They provided ease of use for people who are going to have to use the website. They provide a nice way of being able to put up photos, which was one of our real big things, is we want to be able to put up nice pictures of New Hartford. So we really asked a lot of questions about putting up photos. We asked questions about who's going to help design this. They help you design everything. They give you a template. They provide personnel who will teach people how to access, how to use the website, how to change the website. The difference in both of them was came down to pretty much price. Virtual town halls and schools, the initial cost is close to $4,000. It's $39.95 for the whole setup fee. And QSend was $41, I think, for the setup. And then the annual fee, virtual town halls, comes in at $19.95, $1,995 per year to maintain it. And the other website was $4,100. So when it came down to price and we looked at what do we really think would suit us, we all agreed that virtual town halls and school, even though it was a lower price, gave us a lot for that amount of money, and we felt we would go with them. So what I'm here to recommend tonight, and I had Donna weigh in on it. Donna sent an email saying that I'd go with virtual town hall and schools for a lot of reasons, but basically QSend didn't show anything for the extra money. So if you have any questions you want to, Donna, she'll be pleased to chime in on what her thoughts
Here's
were
Beth's
of
thoughts.
it. And Beth said that she was extremely impressed with the product and support offered by the virtual town hall group. The way the information will be presented to residents and visitors to the site is comprehensive, easily utilized, and capable of being displayed in a very attractive environment. The ease of the use of the software for those of us who would be doing the implementation is wonderful, and our ability to manipulate that information will be made faster and more efficient by the system. I feel that the price has been quoted for the one-time up and running charge as well as the annual fee is extremely fair. She sees no reason not to engage this vendor as soon as possible, and she gives thanks to the EDC for their contribution. And I feel the same way as Beth. Being one of the people who's behind the scenes trying to manipulate the website, I can't tell you how frustrating it is to work with the current website when you try to make changes on it and it doesn't let you do what you want to do. I don't think we'll have those problems with virtual town hall and schools. It's user-friendly. I think we're going to be able to learn fairly easy how to do it, and they have an excellent support system. So the recommendation of the committee would be to engage the services of virtual towns and schools.
What do you get for the annual fee? What do they do for you?
Secure, the secure hosting.
Hosting.
Yep, they do the hosting, they do redundant power supplies and backups. They have support, 24/7 support. They have, we have a certain amount of users that can access the system. You can call them up day or night. They're going to walk you through things. They can come in through the back end and help you fix things on your website.
Do they charge you extra if you call up for additional service like that?
No, everything is included. It's a one fee. You can call, he said you can call as many times as you need to and say help.
He's gonna be able to, what he'll be able to do is he'll be able to remotely make changes and
Yep.
upgrades. Like if, you know, we have a similar system with our
Yeah.
website where the guys can go in and, you know, or guys at the shop, they haven't told me how to do it, but they can go in and make the changes to the website, add pictures, you know, put in dates and stuff like that.
Yep.
But if they mess for some reason, then they call up the guy and then he can remotely,
Fix
from
it.
his location, go into, you know, the town's website and make, you know, and make the changes, make it better. And the hosting itself is anywhere between 40 and 50 or 50, up to $50 or $60 a month. So there's, you know, $700, or you know, it's between $500 and $600, $700 just for the hosting.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take that off, he's really only getting another $1,400, $1,500 for the other stuff, you know, because it's what, 2,000?
Yes, 2,000, yeah.
Yeah.
And our IT person, the one thing that he liked about this, what he said was that when you're doing online credit cards and that kind of stuff, they're the ones that are responsible for the security. He felt really good about the security that they have in place so that you don't have to feel like we're going to get hacked.
Are we gonna do online credit cards?
Well, the tax office already does
Yeah.
online payments, yep.
Okay.
And as of today, you can license your dog online.
Really?
You know, I think, you know, one of the things, you know, first off, I'm all for it, and, you know, I know someone that's not here, you know, Daria Hart, you know, in the past, you know, did a lot of due diligence for the town, and so I'd like to recognize that she did do that, and, you know, but she doesn't have I'm sure she doesn't have the upgraded software that these guys have, and the technology of it changes so much, so it really would, I think it's a great idea. You know, be able to put the pictures on there, whether it's, you know, the canoeing, the tubing, the fishing, you know,
absolutely.
the sundown.
The ability to
Skiing.
change it. keep
Yeah,
it
the
fresh.
ability to change
Yeah.
is key.
Yeah.
It is.
The one thing that you did, just for the record, is
Mhm.
talk about when people that are unfamiliar with the price, the data storage, if you just want to mention that for the record, is immense.
Oh, right, because it's funny, because Dan would say, well, gee, I know you can get a website cheaper, you can do this cheaper. That- Municipal websites have a lot of content,
Hundreds
hundreds and
of
hundreds, you would
pages,
never realize how many pages
bordering
there are.
thousands,
Yeah.
you know, and it's the
And
ability,
there's
that's
no
what you're paying
limit,
for.
that's what you're paying for with these,
No limit.
these companies, there's no limit to how much you can put on the website, whereas
Sure.
some of these smaller ones that are.
Right.
Like so many bytes.
You get
Yeah.
well, you get 100 pages,
Yes.
you know, and you
We'd
sit there
use
and
that
say,
like
okay, I'm
this,
paying
right,
$400 or
Donna?
$500 a year, but it's only 100 pages. Well, we would eat up 100 pages in a week.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
from all the different departments and the agendas and the minutes and
And the
everything.
thing that, you know, like what Donna said, it's gonna be, you know, the next will be, you know, registration for recreation online, and, you know, paying taxes, dog license, there'll be something beyond that, which I'm not sure what it'll be, but you need it.
I will say that this company came and gave, 2 years ago, Donna? gave a presentation 2 years ago. We were impressed with them at that time.
Sure.
We just didn't have the funding that would support it. And what the changes that they have, the improvements that they have even come up with those 2-year time is incredible. But yet their cost has remained fairly stable. They are a municipal website provider. They know it. They know how to do it right. And I did call some towns and find out from them how they felt about it and make sure it really is user-friendly, because everybody always says, oh yeah, no problem, you can do it. I talked to people and they said, yes, it's very user-friendly, which is key.
Yeah. They also run like user meetings in the state, you know, so they'll have during the year, so that different town, you know.
Send a representative from
Right.
New Hartford to, yeah.
And the intention of their website is like each board or commission will be able to maintain their page or their website. And quite honestly, what we have now is too complicated to train that many
You
people.
can't,
You
right.
know, so it's just been
Well,
Christine
you know,
and
we-
Beth
you know,
putting
we do it,
stuff.
you know, you say, the scheme of things, you know, $4,000 is not,
To better communicate with our constituents.
and you know, all the people in the community, they aren't old, like me and some other people in the room, you know, they're gonna be using the webs more and more, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, at the canoe shop, there isn't a canoe shop without the website, there really isn't.
Well, I think it's key. I know that we try to put on the website now, you know, like when Whitbeck Road was closed, for example. You know, you wanna put that information that Whitbeck Road is closed so people know. The website we have now has no real organization to where you can put that kind of stuff. But this there's a banner, so if you have to put urgent news up, you put that banner up. Or when the storm hits and there's a shelter open, you can put
Shelter
shelters
is
are open. And people will know, that's where your, you know, breaking news is. It'll be really a step up. I'm excited. I think Donna's excited too to move forward.
Yeah, well, I think everybody in town hall, different departments, if you look at our current website, it's not all it could be, in part because it's so hard to get the information
Right.
out there.
Mhm.
And because if I want to add something to my website, I've been taking it to either Christine or Beth to do, and it's just like, I don't want to make more work for them, I don't want to make it, you know, so we haven't really maximized the use of a website, and I feel with
agree.
this we can.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, does anybody want to make a motion to adopt or execute the recommendation to hire virtual town halls and schools to implement a new website?
I'll make that motion.
Can you get a second?
Yes, sir.
Any further questions or comments?
No.
All in favor? Aye. Fantastic, so Chris, if you
Thank you. I will
go
call
forward
him
with that,
tomorrow,
I'm
let
sure
him know
that
we're on
Jim
board.
and Shelley and everybody will be happy to move
Perfect.
forward with that.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing the heavy lifting on it. It's just another thing that we pile into your 85-page work.
It's my job
This
description.
job description. Okay, moving down our list, after the website, we have more fun and excitement from Donna. Donna's asked us to approve a resolution for her historic document preservation grant, which we've done in the past, continue to do so that Donna can do some more work downstairs. I have the resolution. You just read Donna's letter. Please adopt the following resolution at your next selectmen's meeting. Resolve that Daniel V. Jarrett, first selectman, is empowered to execute and deliver in the name and on behalf of this municipality a contract with the Connecticut State Library for an historic documents preservation grant. It says, I have applied for a $4,000 historic documents preservation grant, and prior to the town receiving its grant award, you are required to enter into a contract with the state library. You must be authorized in advance to sign the contract through this resolution. Would anybody like to motion that resolution?
I'll motion that resolution. Don't ask me to repeat it.
Would you like me to repeat it? Resolve that Daniel V. Jerem, first selectman, is empowered to execute and deliver in the name and on behalf of this municipality a contract with the Connecticut State Library for an historic documents preservation grant.
Yes, sounds good.
So moved.
So moved.
Second it.
Second.
Would I like to discuss it further or read it again? I got it better the second time. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Don.
Did you get the paper for that yet or not?
We haven't got the approval yet.
Okay, all right.
As soon as it comes in,
So I
since
don't have
you've
to worry
done
about that.
this,
Okay,
then you can.
good.
Okay.
We're moving right along here.
appointments to boards and commissions, we have today, sadly, an appointment to make to the Board of Assessment Appeals. All the selectmen are aware, I know of the passing of Jack Moore, Walter John Moore, Navy veteran, passed in February, and was just recently interred up at the town cemetery. Jack is sorely missed. Did a great job donating his time on the Board of Assessment Appeals with both Jack and my brother Rob, and now we have a vacancy. We've received a recommendation from the RTC, Jim Fitzgerald, to nominate or renominate, as the case may be, Rob Jerem to sit in Jack Moore's place. Rob was...
Mr. Selectman, how upset is he that we didn't do this last one?
Yeah, I don't think he's as upset as
Oh, okay.
you had a couple of hearings?
I was just wondering how,
He had a little work to do.
how upset Rob was that, we left him out for 2 months.
No, we didn't have the actual recommendation.
Okay, we didn't have the recommendation, okay.
So, Rob has offered once again to serve the community as a real estate appraiser, as we all know, plus he has, I
A lot of
believe,
experience on the board.
8 years on the Board of Assessment Appeals already. So he's willing to jump back in and help Jack and Bob Gaheen, who's our other member, complete the duties of the Board of Assessment Appeals. Anybody would like to further the name of Rob Jerem in nomination?
I'll make that motion to nominate Rob Jerem
To fill the vacancy.
fill the vacancy of Jack Moore's.
Okay.
And I would just second by adding that, Rob has done a great job in all the years that I served with him, which was at least 6, so it would be good to have him back. And not as busy as we were then, but that could change with the statistical reevaluation that the town and municipalities throughout the state are going through.
Well,
Could get busy again.
it could.
Probably not as busy because it's going down, it's too low,
I think this just fills to the end of Jack's term.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
sure what that
Gotcha.
is. So,
Not even-
or it may only go to the next election. But
We
anyway,
can
he's
look into
filling,
that, yeah,
he's
yeah.
filling the specific term for Jack Moore.
I
I think he was
understand.
just
I think
elected in
next year,
11.
right?
He was elected in 11.
Yeah, I think 2013, I think.
But I
We
think
can look
even
that
no
up.
matter when it's a,
It would be till the
I
next,
think-
till
For the
this
term.
election.
Yeah.
to the next election.
Mhm.
Anyway, we have a name and nomination. It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Rob Jerem is back on the Board of Assessment Appeals. Thank you, Rob. Okay. Operations update. A lot going on right now. We've reached a tentative agreement with the Department of Public Works union contract, of which I will fill you in on the details of that. It has not been ratified by the union, but I believe that we have a high chance of success. So we're happy about that, and I will let you know the details of that when we get into executive session. Still not public knowledge until they approve it and sign it down the line. Obviously, we spent a lot of time with our engineers and Rista and Hemlock Construction and CBC down on Steel Road, and we're looking forward to moving that project along, but it takes some time to do that. I also presented that at an informational meeting to the Wetlands Commission last night to let them know what the town's working on. Technically, the town of New Hartford works within what's called the general permit to repair our drainage. When you undergo a large-scale project like this, it's nice to work together with your boards and commissions to let them know what they're going on. So I did make a presentation to them with Roger last night. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple outside contractors coming in, one of which, if you've noticed, have been trying to make a steady commitment to keeping the street lines on the roads. A lot of people question the street lines. The street lines really are sought after from our senior community who like the street lines for late fall and winter driving. It provides a guide on the road, it provides safety for them to be able to see the reflective paint at night. So for the last couple of years, we've really been going after it. You can get single line striping on your roads for about $195 a mile. So for the $5,800, we did a vast majority of the, what I call the arterial connectors. We don't go into the neighborhoods per se, but we get all of the south roads, the East Cotton Hills, Cotton Hills, Niles Road, West Hill roads, and just have a whole map of them that we do in town. So we get a lot of positive reviews on that, just making sure that that's done.
They're really important when you're doing driver's ed with your teenagers too. Stay with them, you'll
Yeah.
find that out soon. Without them, going on driver's ed, so.
Well, I know
They're
that
very important, I agree, I think it's just,
when I first came into office, it hadn't been done in a couple of years, but the last time that it had been done with double line striping.
People didn't like the
And
double lines.
No.
people really take offense to the double line because
Yeah.
it makes it look like a state highway.
It does, yeah.
But the single line striping,
they're okay with that.
I think they're okay with. Some people say, hey, what are we doing? And I said, you just don't know how many phone calls we get from people that drive in the evening, that like to have that reflective paint on the road, shows you when the road is turning, gives you that one extra guide, in that twilight or nighttime driving.
Perfect for seniors.
That really helps. Also to improve, this time of year we go heavy on roadside mowing. For the last couple of years, I had a recommendation from the Conservation Commission to try to lay off the use of herbicides, roadside herbicides. We had in the past hired forest land service or woodland
Consultants.
service, Jim Gillespie, a fellow who does a licensed contractor that sprays herbicide along guardrails. So I took the Conservation Commission's recommendation to heart. We didn't do it for a year, but that grass starts growing through all the guardrails and then you can't see, it starts creeping into the travel path, and I called him this year and said, we gotta beat that down a little bit. The amount of time that it takes, the flail mower that we use along the side of the road does not get that close to the guardrails, so we did have him in this week to do the guardrails, and actually to document, believe it or not, 2012, we don't actually have an engineered map that shows where every bit of guardrail is in town. So we're trying to develop a map that will become a living document to add guardrails to. That said, we also, knowing that we had a little extra money in the highway budget, we entered into a contract for about $10,000 with ADF, which is a guardrail contractor that does approved state work all over, to add 3 sections of guardrail on the hard right-hand turn on Whitbeck Road, where there was an exposed cross pipe with a large ditch. Everybody knows on Whitbeck Road, there's been, I think, in February, I know Morgan and I were at a car accident where a Subaru went into the brook. And there was a couple vertical wood guard posts there that were not connected with any cable. They snapped, they only slow you down, but the Subaru was teetering,
Sure.
going in. So we did, and we had, I believe it was Mr. Remmers,
Yes.
that from down on Whitbeck Road complaining, and I tried to tell him, I said, it's a big expense, the town just doesn't have the ability to allocate $10,000 that easy till we get a little closer to the end of the year, we know where we stand. And of
Sure.
course, we did have a good year with the sand and salt being, usage being very, very low, so we had the opportunity to make some of these improvements like we talked about with the herbicide and the line painting. So we did have those guardrails added. Woodchuck Lane, I know that we talked about it extensively through our budget process. The 40-inch reinforced concrete pipe that was probably 40-plus years old under Woodchuck Lane. We got an email from a Woodchuck Lane resident, it had to be about 3 weeks ago, pretty much right after our last meeting, that a deep depression had begun in the middle of the road. The pipe started giving out. I went over and inspected it that morning, right in the center of the road, possibly this wide, this deep into the road, started giving way. Immediately called Harwinton and told them that we were going to take that pipe out immediately because we thought it was imminent failure. We hired Hemlock Construction, who had given me the original bid to authorize an emergency repair, and we closed it for 3 days, $20,000. We replaced the 40-inch reinforced concrete pipe with twin 36-inch pipes, and it was done, paved over the top, everything. That is probably a candidate for a little guardrail work also, but at this point, a little too dicey on the highway budget at the end of the year. We have the ability to transfer $20,000 a year from department to department. We can transfer $20,000 in, but as you'll see as I come along here, we've got some paving projects that we've been doing also. The field house that we've been working on, we hired Terminex, believe it or not, to develop a program for the building. We believe there's some carpenter ants in the building, maybe some mice. We're moving forward with getting the electrical service back going in the building, and obviously we have a plan for that. But I would like to have a special meeting up there to get a consensus on the direction of where we go. But I thought that when we saw that there's some wood droppings coming from the roof in a specific area that we need to move forward.
There's no electricity, or it's just all the old stuff?
Well, we had during the construction process, when Ed Kostak was up there, we had Jim Kanopka, who's the town, does
Electrician, yeah.
large,
Yeah.
I don't wanna call him the town's electrician, but he's kind of, we don't have a contract with him, but he's done the bulk of the electrical work for the town. We had him go up and take a look at the electrical service when Ed was working in the building, and because the quantity of water that was coming through that
Well,
roof.
that's why I brought it up, yeah.
And when Jim went through there and did an evaluation of it and saw the wiring, he said, I'm disconnecting it. He said, the last thing you wanna do is put $40,000 or $50,000 in the roof and have a fire. So he disconnected that, and when he looked at the wiring for the lights, it was like stereo speaker wire. It was not to code at all. So since that time, we've had it disconnected. And now we're gonna, obviously, topic of discussion for us to do it. I mean, if we wanna have a special meeting next week to go up and start talking about it, I mean, July 1st is
Well,
coming.
electrical work is not a bazillion dollars,
No,
to
no.
put, you can bring it in, so that if you needed to plug in, it's a drill or a handsaw or something, you'd have some sort of power there.
Well, what we did is we bought in a generator
Oh, you
for the
did?
work for that.
Yeah,
I donated my own personal
Well,
generator to the
maybe,
cause.
you know what I'm saying, don't just go forward where, you got with your electrical contractor and just, put in a new, I don't know what the service is like that's there, but get a new service in and then maybe put in some plugs.
Rewire the
Yeah,
lights.
Yeah,
and-
rewire some of the lights or,
That's right.
it's not something that, it's something that you could go, again, a la carte on, because you could just say, hey, give me 10 outlets now, and then later, as you continue to use the building, you might want outside lights, et cetera.
Right. Well, there are specific requirements that the building official and the fire marshal
The
indicated
exit
that we
signs.
need the exit signs, we need smoke and fire
Right.
detectors, so things like that have to be implemented. Those will be mandatory if we want to get anywhere above the maximum 20 person usage right now. 20 people right now, yeah, you can have a basketball game in there and do whatever, but to have a larger event, you can't do it.
Now that we've got it dry, then.
And it is bone dry,
Yeah, so
it's
now,
really nice.
now we might as well get, some power in it
Right.
sometime.
Well, and I think, some of the things we need to talk about is creating partition walls so that all of the town's equipment can be put in a secure area where the kids are not gonna play with it. We did have, as I informed you before, all the asbestos has been taken out of the building and remediated, so that we can, know.
You demo the stage yet?
No, I haven't, but that's part of, the conceptual idea. We need to know where we're going. We probably wanna talk with our rec commission, see if they wanna give some input on where we're going here. And, make some decisions, because, obviously we'll be coming up fast and furious here on July 1, wanna get it going. So, but I thought the pest control was a no-brainer. Over the last couple weeks, Christy and I had people come in to start pitching. As I told you at the last meeting, we did sign a deal to change our electrical provider, electrical generation service provider, and which should provide 20% on what we're paying for the actual electricity. That said, no sooner did that happen than we got some phone calls on telephone service. So we've met with the guys from Comcast and AT&T to see if we want to make a switch and see if there can be some savings there, and we're considering that. We haven't made any changes yet, but we're considering it. Over the last week, we had two benefits that I was able to attend. One, for Steve Joseph, we had the pasta supper up in Winston that was very, very successful. Raised several $1,000s for the family. I know that Lisa, Steve's sister, is very happy with the attendance. It was a long line to get in. So myself and my family went up to that. Friday night, I know that the Terwilliger boys, Timmy and Brian, had the 3-on-3 basketball tournament up at Brody Park, which was also very successful, raised over $1,100 for the family. So the town has really come up big to help the family, and we're really happy about that. We also had 2 other major events. We had the Village Ride out of Ski Sundown on the 16th also, and the Litchfield Hills Triathlon up at Brody Park on Sunday, which is the swim, bike, and run, which will also take a lot of time to get all the highway permits and things like that to get those guys in action. Christine and I juggle those. One of the things that we've been looking at for end of the year consideration, we had a little bit of money in our interior exterior maintenance budget, is a frequently heard complaint, but nobody's ever really dove in and tried to solve it until we tasked Christine to add another page to her job description. Acoustic tile, sound, noise reducing panels for the senior center. I can't tell you how many times we go in there to a meeting, I can't hear, and we know the air conditioner kicks on and it's just terrible. And they make these noise reducing panels. So Christine we hired a consultant to come in to do an evaluation of the room to give us an estimate of how many panels it would be required.
Freestand or are they attached to the wall?
They touch the wall.
Attached to the wall. And we are working, I don't know if we can, he is quite sizable, we want a couple thousand square feet of noise panels to reach optimum.
Right.
But, we can start. We can start to make that place a better place to have meetings. It's just not user-friendly. You can't hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I go in there, if I'm listening to someone speak, I'm terrible. My hearing in my right ear is not as good as...
Ballpark.
They gave us a price per square foot or a price per panel.
Yeah.
What's so much per panel?
I can't remember off the top
Couple
of my
hundred
head.
probably or more?
Yeah, and he wanted oh my gosh, 98 of these panels, which would look ridiculous to be perfectly honest with you. It was too many.
But we could add some.
Yeah.
Got a church up there for 98.
Well, I think what we want to do
panels.
Yeah.
is
Who knows
see,
what else we could do up there?
but we can see if we can't get some samples in here and see if we
Oh, I
can
think
do
you should
something
follow
to
up with it.
improve.
I agree, I think you absolutely should pursue it. It's obviously an up-and-coming technology,
Yeah.
and it is very, very,
Anything would be better than what it is now.
people are gonna be putting them in their houses in 15
The
years. You're gonna be nobody if you don't have those in your house.
The gentleman who came here, when he walked upstairs, the first thing, and he's a sound engineer, and he's got a degree in this stuff, and he went upstairs, and the first thing he looked at it says, the first thing I would do is lower the ceiling. I said, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
That whole senior center was preserved because of that
Yeah.
ceiling
I agree,
upstairs
you
and
wouldn't want to do
balcony.
that.
And I said, that's not gonna happen at all. I said, well, in that case, he said, you're gonna need a lot of panels. He said, how about carpeting? He said, you really should put carpeting on the floor. And I said, that's another thing, the seniors really don't want
They
the
like that-
carpeting on
that
the
wood
floor.
The original wood floor up there?
Yeah, they like that floor because they do things like yoga and they have exercise classes and, carpeting gets kind of filthy to have to be on, to be perfectly honest with
How
you. They
about carpeting
prefer,
on just some of it?
there is on a portion of the room, on the
that
senior
carpet wasn't
center.
bad.
Yeah, that's it. So everything he first said was like, nah, they don't want that, they don't want that. So then he did
Right.
all the recommendations for the
I
panels.
think that you could probably get to that, BTU level by adding carpeting, but when you tell them, no, that's not, then you
Yeah.
lose that part of the formula.
Right,
But our goal here is to make it somewhat better than it is now.
Yeah.
We gotta move this room a little bit forward to see how we can make it better, and if this fella can help us, maybe we put up 10 panels.
Start
The
slow.
oddity was, we hired this guy, which is the next thing I was gonna tell you about, is that Christine and I spent the day with, the CLMP guys out in Berlin at the corporate headquarters. We had this emergency preparedness summit, and I think the guy was in the day before, and this is all a response to the August and October storms and how we're gonna, improve the system and work together and communicate better so that the next time we have these storms, we're gonna get a better response time.
Yeah.
Well, no sooner do we do this, we get the tour of the whole facility. It's quite impressive. What they call the EOC, which is the Emergency Operations Center, where they triage individual, and they have the 5 screens on which show you anything from live weather to the GIS maps that show where they're...
My house tonight, right now.
Well, then you get into, if you've never seen it or you want to see it, their TOC, their Transmission Operations Center, that shows the sum total of the entirety of their transmission grid on a digital screen that has to be 80 feet to 100 feet wide,
Yeah.
20 feet tall, command center, 5 guys, 3 guys always on shift. And it is a
Wow. Look at this
secure
grid.
building that shows everything that is on, how power flows, where people are working on the system, the lines that are interrupted, what it takes to start the switching cycle that, you know, when we heard during the October storms, everyone's saying, why aren't these trucks rolling? The orders to stop power and move power start in that room, and how the service is generated. It is quite impressive to go through the whole thing. But we had a number of speakers and you know, people questioning people from the state DOT.
Was every state represented, but every town was represented.
They all were asked to come.
I bet it was a good turnout.
It was quite a turnout.
Yeah.
Of course, Christine and I were there, and, you know, I think the largest round of applause was the tree warden from South Windsor who said, fund your tree program, you won't have a problem. But they had public works directors, they had, you know, what they're doing to improve systems, they had the state CONDOT operations manager who was there saying, hey, look, we're working on a tree program too, you know, we don't have responsibility for the power lines, but they have, you know, critical arteries, you know, that they're working on. And there was some good information that was offered there. You know, I think ultimately, you know, CLMP has made a significant commitment to come in and trim 55 miles of power line easement in New Hartford this summer, and they haven't started yet, but we're looking to hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they do the work that they said that they're going to do to make it better for our residents. That said, you know, when the storms rolled through, and we had the other day, I got to tell you, I got more calls from our account manager at CLP over one leader on the lines down on Wicked Street, and those guys were there relatively quick. So they had a tree crew there and, you know, a line crew there. So they're trying, and I think they realize that they have to do better. So I know their commitment is there, I'm hoping. Now that said, we know that in July, which will be at the end of the month, we have the governor's statewide emergency preparedness drill, which is coming up. It's actually going to be a series of 2 drills, the 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st. The governor has not mandated it, but he's suggested that all the municipalities, you know, participate in the drill. So we've been working, and we've just sent out letters today to all our fire chiefs and the president of the village ambulance to let them know that the drill's ongoing. Obviously, we want their participation in this drill so that we can, you know, take whatever the governor's going to throw at us and see how we respond, you know, to get our DPW. We're going to do it on, you could do it over the weekend on a Saturday or Sunday, you could do it on a Monday or Tuesday. We chose, because we have paid DPW staff, administrative staff, we're going to do it on a Monday, Tuesday. The Monday will be in preparation for, and the drill is supposedly going to be a Category 3 hurricane. It comes up the Connecticut River, wipes everybody out. And then I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to give towns specific challenges or not. But we're talking about having a planning meeting the week before to see if any members of, you know, our volunteer organizations can sit in with our emergency management directors and Christine. I unfortunately will be on vacation, so I will be remotely online. We have to.
Hooked up.
Yeah, this is a virtual drill. How do you respond? So you get online. We have to open our emergency operations center. We have to log into the state system. Get online, and then they will throw a drill at us. The only thing that really concerns me, as I always tell people, is if they give you the dams breaking drill.
Yeah, one text back, we're out of here, that's it.
Yeah. So, you know, that is, when you consider all possible realms, that could possibly be our, you know, greatest challenge as a town. If we were ever to get the phone call, or you hear the 3 prolonged bursts from the village, that means you have, you know, 25 minutes to get out of the village and get up to higher ground. So we will be prepared. You know, obviously we want to bring in our wastewater treatment operators, because that's part of the process, is making sure that they accommodate for flow, and then have our DPW guys make sure that our storm drainage systems are clear. and make sure that our school leaders are prepared to open shelter there. You know, we are blessed. We have two very good shelter buildings in terms of the town hall and the Antolini that function
I was just gonna say that,
very well.
you know,
during the
you and
storms.
Christine have a great deal of recent experience,
Yeah.
you know, with what happened in October and August of last year.
Yeah.
Late September, August.
So, we'll be ready. The question is what will the governor,
Yeah, what we thought.
what challenges will he give us to respond to? And I'm sure that our folks will perform well. They performed well in the last storm, our DPW guys really worked well. All of our, I can't tell you how many calls our emergency service guys, they ran nonstop to call outs, just nonstop, you know? We had these guys doing a warming center over in the village, but the trucks were just rolling out on individual calls for hot wires all over the place, doing make safe. I mean, they were, for, 18 to 24 hours straight, just didn't stop. And in the August storms, it was basement pump outs, with that amount of water, it's just get the pumps going, and they were helping homeowners get water out of their homes. It was fantastic. So I'm sure that we'll do well, but we do want to make sure that we have a planning meeting to make sure that everybody's online, find out who can participate, and see that we make sure that we're all ready and willing to go. So that's good. Now that said, I don't know, and we don't have the meeting. We did sign the finalized proposal for FEMA for all the last storms, which raises our sum total of FEMA submission to $141,000. The last submissions that we put in were the generator submissions, which was almost $15,000, and then the Stedman Road proposal, which was another $13,000 or $14,000. All that's in, if you guys want to check it out, it's all in Annie's office. And I gotta say that there are some people that work for the federal government that have got it. There are some people that, well, let's just say they don't. Our last FEMA consultant, Tim Morrill, has it. That guy was great. And we gave him every bit of information from all the generator, from the run times, with the town employee.
I was here one day when he was here, yeah.
With all of the time cards so that he could estimate the run time on the generators at the town garage, so he gave us that expense. The timing, we had the logbook for the sign-in sheet for the shelter, so we knew exactly how long the shelter was online. So we had that information, we had all the food that the school used, all submitted, the employees, the run time from here, from when the power came on, which we had made notes about, all approved. We had late tree submissions from Dr. O'Reilly for the school for tree work that happened at Bakerville School, approved. A couple that weren't, because there are criteria that you have to meet. When you have a failure of a tree, it has to threaten the building, it has to be, cause damage or be the threat of causing damage to require an emergency removal. He did the best he could for us, and I think he really helped us get
Well, I think
a nice
you and
reimbursement.
Christine did a great job of grabbing $140,000.
And I can tell you
I
now,
know there was a lot of paperwork involved.
the final, when all of the submission is, I tell you now, the pile of submissions is like this. It is no joke.
That's why a lot of people
paper.
didn't get $140,000. A lot of people didn't want to deal with that.
They changed the system. It used to be, from what I understand, and this obviously predates my tenure as first selectman, it used to be that when a town went through a drainage situation, a flooding instance, the entire town was considered a project. Well, now, every road that is considered for reimbursement is its own individual project. And they go GPS, routes, photographs, how much fill, how deep was the gully. They calculated out everything. And you have to be able to back it up with all of the invoices, all the trucking, everything. So, and we have it all. So it's just a matter of piecemealing, because you got 8 or 10 trucks, or maybe on one day you have 5 or 6 guys doing it all, and then you have other guys. Don't forget, the show goes on around here, so after a week or two, the parks guys are back doing their things, but Doug and Joe and, you know, Steve, rest in peace, and, you know, and Chris Kemp and George Phillips are our primary restorers, and, you know, you gotta keep after it, and sometimes, you know, the bills of lading of gravel gets mislabeled from the vendor or something, and you gotta figure out the puzzle to say, oh, you know, and what you learn from it is good notes make for good reimbursement. You know, if you keep good information, you could get back tenfold. And in the heat of the battle, that's sometimes hard to do,
Sure.
but you gotta, this one, chasing them down. Here's a pad, put it in your truck. Here's a pad, put it in your truck, take notes. What did you do today? What equipment did you use? Because the equipment is reimbursable. So, and like we said, you know, almost $15,000 for generators. It's not based on fuel, it's based on runtime. If you can't document when it turned on, when it turned off, you're not getting paid. Well, we have the logbook for our shelter. When did people first come in? When did they leave? It's perfect. So, that's good news. Of course, in our budget, you know, that we only, well, first of all, we only get 75% of that.
I knew that.
So, and then second of all, in our budget for revenue, which will probably come in next year's budget, because we haven't received it yet, we only estimated, I think, 35 or 40,000. So we will create an advantageous position for the budget for next year. After our last meeting, which is on the fourth Tuesday, the fourth Wednesday was the library board meeting, right? So Jack and I went over and sat in. Jack came as my wingman. I made my presentation to the library board about the downtown revitalization grant and the request for the easement for the parking on library property. The library board approved our request. They did have a condition, which we have forwarded to the town attorney, is that as Jack will tell you,
Future development.
if they ever were to be placed in the financial position to expand their building, they want to retain the right to be able to relocate the parking area that would be, or, you know, because if they get a chance to construct something, they want to have flexibility. So we've asked our attorney to draw the easement in such a way that gives them the ability to relocate it if they expand. So I thought that was a no-brainer. I didn't think anything was happening. So they reserved the right. They want their lawyer to review it after Chip has done drawing it up, and got to get back with Chip to see where that stands. We also had, that said, Doug Humes and one of his DOT wingmans, David
Clark?
Clark,
Yeah.
in for DOT for a preliminary review, and I know we talked about that last time. And after about a half an hour review here, they looked at it. They did not see anything within the plan that was objectionable to them. However, they wanted us to forward it to Tom Lamb in District 4, and the drainage fell. So we penned a letter, which I have for you guys in correspondence to Tom Lamb, to expedite the review of the proposal, and CDM Smith, who is our consulting engineer, is also going to do a cover letter, but that letter went out today. So.
When do we, that's good news. So it's moving along very
Yeah.
fast, yeah.
So we're happy about that. We'll see where that goes. In terms of road work, I told you last time, I think, that we were getting ready to put paving down on Livery Pool. Livery Pool is complete, with the exception of curbing. Curbing always comes last, so the people of Livery Pool are very happy. Tanglewood is in the home stretch, ready for paving. Doug is installing, you know, like any road, there are always areas where water comes out into the street. So what Doug does is tries to work with water that ends. He adds and supplements a little bit of the drainage here and there with some perforated pipe or whatever to keep water out. Water is the great destroyer of roads. So he is dug up the back corner of Tanglewood, and he's fast to hard. I think he replaced at least, rebuilt 10 catch basins. You know, these old concrete block basins. Takes the covers off, takes out the, rebuilds them all the way up, puts new tops on them, or reuses the tops if he can. Got done, actually did one over again because he didn't like the way it was sitting. He's in the home stretch, and we've got the phone call into to Glasso to let the asphalt roll as soon as he's done. So we could see that in the next day or two, or depending on their schedule, it might be next week. But we're hoping that those guys can roll trucks ASAP. and get that done. And then what will happen is, once they complete the road paving, they'll send a curbing crew at the end that will just bang out all the curbing. You know, that's, you don't wanna pay for mobilization for multiple times. So, that said, we also had, I told you that I went to wetlands last night. We had, I think I showed you guys, did I show you the plan for,
Yeah, we did, I saw it for Steel Road.
no, for Antolini for the field from Ron Dufour?
Yeah,
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we looked
Yeah,
at it.
you did.
I think I showed you that. We reviewed that, referred that plan for technical review from Michael Klein, who performs wetland evaluations.
Sure.
I told you that that was the game plan. Michael Klein did his search, found no wetlands. We took that and petitioned to get on the wetlands agenda for last night. After some deliberation by some of the commissioners, we were granted the right to be put on the agenda. And they gave us what is called a favorable report that will go to P&Z, indicating that there are no wetlands concerns on the site. So that said, we will be on the agenda for the initial application for an expansion of an accessory use at a school, i.e. the fields, for Wednesday's meeting, which will start their process. And I believe that they have all the information they need, as far as I know. So now the zoning commissioners will have a chance to do that. The cost of the wetlands survey was $350. Ron Dufour's cost, I believe, was $1,500. So, in the sum total of the balance of the funds from the Brody Fieldhouse roof, I think we had about $1,400 or $1,500 left over. So we fully expended.
Well, what could be, so we could have zoning approval to begin work at the Antolini for the
Well,
expansion of the fields.
they have a process, and I don't want,
So
I know we
probably-
have a commissioner here, I don't want him to
Well, I
prejudge
do that
anything, but
too.
maybe Dan could tell us that we have to have a public hearing?
I believe so.
Okay, so we have to
Tell
get,
you.
Yeah.
we have to get into whatever the procedure is.
Yeah, because
Our
it's
initial
school.
application will go to them, and they will start their process and
Start the
inform
clock.
us what has to happen. So
So
they're
that's
gonna
pretty
review
good
it.
then.
Rista told me that I didn't need to be there tomorrow, but all the application information will go, and then, you know, Rista will give them the information, have the map and everything, and
Wetlands
then.
tomorrow, and then zoning.
No, zoning, wetlands is done, and there are no wetlands on the site. I do have that letter here for you from the Environmental Planning Services, if anyone wants to read it, but I'll give you the bold thing, there are no wetlands or water courses in this area, which he reviewed. So, it's good. So, I think that's just about it on my updates. Does anybody have any questions on updates that I've given? No? Okay, I'll just tell you, starting to get a lot of phone calls about road work, and I know that Danny and Don are here. You know, the cycle usually starts right around the budget approval process, where certain constituents like to call to find out what's in the planning phase for the next roads to be paved, what are the road ratings, where does my road stand? And frequently the language is a little bit more colorful than what I just used, you know, my road, you know, stinks, my road stinks, you know, and you tell them, you know, we have a specific where, you know, Doug and I ride the roads and go through everything. The oddity of it is that with the fall storms being what they were at the tail end of the paving season, and us having to expend so much time and energy doing that, we really didn't get the livery pools and the Tanglewoods done in 11-12 that we wanted to get done, and now we're just getting to it and banging it out now, knowing that we had expended so much money on storm remediation, we had to wait a little while to get towards the end to figure out what we could afford. And we haven't really got to the planning phases for 12-13 yet. So the phone's ringing off the hook, calls and concerns about, you know, Maple Hollow, and I know that Danny and Don are here because with the FEMA application, I know there's something of interest. I'm not saying this is the sole reason why you're here, but Stedman Road, now that our submission is complete, and I have to tell you, tried to work FEMA as hard as I could to get as much money back. But now that we have that funding issue resolved, I think we need to put it on our agenda to press our engineers for a path, for a solution for Stedman Road. It's the road closed in the way that it is now. A, doesn't meet zoning, right? Cul-de-sac can only be 1,200 feet long. So we've closed a road because of an emergency situation, but we need to find a permanent solution. We've
I
had,
believe it's 2,000,
or is it 2,000? Well, whatever it is, it's beyond the limit.
by almost twice.
So,
That's past Skip's house, the bridge is still up?
No bridge, it's
The
just,
depth.
the dug
Oh,
well.
yeah.
The dogway.
So,
There's a brook there now. But it's just a big gully there, right?
no.
No, it's
dropped
slumped.
down.
Just dropped
The
it.
top.
so, I have mentioned to our engineers and asked them, told them that we're gonna be asking for a specific, recommendation from them on whether or not, because they, in the wake of the storm, and their initial thing is their recommendation, having 2 slope failures in 5 years, was close the road. Well, now that we've gotten our FEMA reimbursement and we're done, we have some estimates on what it would do to repave the affected area. Is it appropriate to reopen the road under a weight rating, or should we close it and put gates on it so that we could use it as a detour and have some emergency access to it under certain conditions or not? We need to find out and get an engineered recommendation. Or is it appropriate to start the process for full-scale rehabilitation? You know, they put out some large numbers on that. I don't think, that's not a topic that I wanna get into at this point without all the information. But I think we need to pursue it
So my
for our
question,
next meeting,
I just wanted to ask, so now when you go right, it's closed, the barriers are up still?
after
It's
Skip
closed
Rogers'
still,
house,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's closed to vehicular traffic. There's a lot of horses,
Yeah, yeah.
ATVs,
Yeah.
pedestrian
Foot
traffic,
yeah,
you know, it's traveling.
And I will just tell you, before we leave the updates, I did make the phone call to Jim Hart today. You recall that we had the RRDD to ask him if Dave Batista's cost estimates were completed yet. And he said actually that they had just met, I believe, last night, and that the cost estimates were not prepared for that, but they expect them to be done within 2 to 3 weeks. So we should have
That's
that.
for the field.
Yeah, for that proposal up there, which I think there's some larger issues there, but to have that math available will be part of our discussion, so
Right.
when we start formulating a proposal, we can deal with that. So, anyway. Any
Nothing for me.
questions? Good? Okay. Correspondence for tonight. We have, as part of the Steel Road project, which I forgot to mention at the time we would have gone into, part of the engineer's recommendation on Steel Road was a slight modification in the drainage system north of where I told you the road wanted to be elevated, north of
2 months, hopefully.
North.
right,
Yeah.
Tim or excuse me, Matt and Joni Norton. And part of that, you have a series of catch basins in a row that drain in a southerly direction and then outlet across the street at the northern property line of Norton. One of the engineer's recommendations was, you could decrease the intensity of the flow of this water, which is concentrated in this area, by creating a second crossing. Both areas are on flow onto land that's owned by NBC. So if you want to petition NBC, perhaps they would consider your request, and you start with a guy by the name of Jim Randazzo, who's up here at Beach Rock Road. So I wrote the letter, town of New Hartford preparing to repave a 1-mile portion of Steel Road, part of the project. Much of the existing drainage system, including both catch basins and drain pipes, will be replaced. During an evaluation of the system, town's consulting engineer made a recommendation to make a slight modification. The portion of the system consists of 2 catch basins on the eastern side of the road that are connected by roughly 350 feet of pipe. At the southernmost catch basin, the water is then piped under the road at the northern border of 603 Steel, which is the Nortons, emptying at that property line with the flow of water due to topography settling on NBC land. Our engineer recommended dividing the system and told him that it had a meeting with Carol Yule, and then ended up saying, you know, while the town maintains the right to drain in its current location, and implementing the engineer's recommendation will cost the town a premium, as opposed to just continuing to drain where we do, the town would like to work with our neighbors at MDC to implement the engineer's recommendation to further our goal of utilizing best practices when our budget allows. Surprise, surprise, we got a bid that actually meets our budget, so knock on wood. As such, we would like to request that MDC approve a modified drainage easement. And that would include the ability to separate the system and drain in location. So we have my correspondence, my map, this is what we spent, you know, recommendation from our land use attorney on a sample easement, so we did all the legwork for them, so you can see that.
What they didn't say anything back yet?
No,
it's
I
not
just
that,
sent it out last,
yeah.
he said it's gonna take two months at least. So the Wetlands Commission's, recommendation is there any way we can put the pipe in now and cap it? So that we're not using, so that we could just get it done,
Right.
knowing that we don't suspect that they'll
Yeah, I was gonna say,
deny our request, it's going, the water's going to the same place, but you never know, so. And that's part of the reason, which is good, that we got a la carte pricing, so if they, I'm gonna tell the contractor to do that pipe last, you know, and maybe we'll have an answer by then, and if not, we'll just continue. But, we'll see how that goes. The, here's our letter to Tom Lamb, requesting a speedy review. Should have made a copy of this one. Okay. Then I got a letter for us all to consider from Brian Keelty, Chairman of the Board of Education, dated June 10th, 2012, with the subject being New Hartford School Consolidation. And it reads, as you may know, the Board of Education has prepared some preliminary work regarding the consolidation of the New Hartford Public Schools. For the past several budget seasons, the Board of Education has been required to make significant cuts to its operating budget. If that trend continues, there are few options available to realize similar savings that will not have a detrimental impact on the education of our students. Prior efforts to consolidate and regionalize have not reached fruition, and it is time to reconsider consolidation and the future use of the school buildings in New Hartford. At the request of the Board of Education, I am writing to seek a mutually agreeable time for our three boards, this is also addressed to Ben, the Board of Finance Chair, to meet together so that we can examine the preliminary work completed and to determine whether consolidation is viable and further action is warranted regarding this matter. A consolidation proposal will likely be very controversial for some residents, and it is critical that the Board of Education, Finance, and Selectmen are mutually supportive of any forthcoming recommendation. I look forward to working with you on this matter.
what schools does he wanna consolidate? Like Annie Bleeding and Pine Meadow?
I think they have talked in the past about the possibility of closing Bakerville School.
Closing?
Either temporarily or something. I think that, well, I would take issue with one thing, is I don't agree at the top that there's been any reduction in the local New Hartford Board of Education budget. It may not have increased as much as annually as they have wanted to, but it certainly has not gone down,
I agree.
okay? That is fact. Within the annual increase associated with operating the schools, they've been made to look at their operations for savings,
Right.
like all of our budgets have. I mean, the town hall today does not operate in the same fashion as it did 2 or 3 years ago. We have less staff, and we have looked in every corner, under every rock, for every bit of savings. The question is, and I think that we should probably request information from our town attorney. I don't know that it's, educating our students is the purview of our Board of Education. If they wanted to shutter a school, either temporarily or permanently, I believe they have the authority to do that. I agree that it would be hugely controversial, and I remain skeptical that there are sufficient savings that may warrant that. I'm willing to listen, because as you can see, as we just talked about, the electrical or the phone or the healthcare.
What's the Bakerville school, what grades is that?
K1 and 2.
Right.
The two, New Hartford Elementary and Bakerville both house K1 and 2. Ann Antolini, and they also have preschool. Ann Antolini is 3, 4, 5, and 6. I would be interested in hearing a presentation from them about purported savings, because I think that in this economy, we cannot ignore the realities that if we are in a cycle where we have fewer and fewer students for whatever reason that's happening around us, that perhaps the service could be provided in less buildings. But let's not, jump to a conclusion before we have the information presented to us. And I think that this may be something that the community might want to chime in on. Not just at this table. I'm talking about perhaps a town meeting, but that may not even be big enough. It may be a referendum, for how the town chooses. You have a school system that has functioned in its current form for over 50 years. So I applaud their efforts to look for ways to seek savings. But I've had some conversations with Brian to say, if you close the school, that doesn't mean that you don't have to maintain it.
Is this the guy, he's been in our meetings, he sat over there.
Tall,
Yeah,
dark hair.
Yeah, little soft pepper.
Yeah, little salt, that's it.
Brian's a great guy and a wonderful volunteer. And he takes his charge very seriously, and I'm thankful to have him there. I think he's doing a great job. And he's looking for ways to save money that haven't been looked at before. The question is, do we want to have a meeting of 3, or would we like to have Brian come in and make a presentation to talk about savings? And in the meantime, perhaps request an opinion from our town attorney about, whose authority it is to close a school, and how that comes about.
I think you should have a meeting, with personally, I would have the opinion of the town attorney first. Because if you, say to Brian, come on in and talk to the Board of Selectmen about consolidating or closing the school, that word is gonna get out on the street pretty quickly. You're gonna have everybody going, what are you doing that for,
Well,
So, but that's just my opinion, maybe there'd be a way to notify the public that the selectmen are gonna have the meeting, rather than just go to Brian and say, oh yeah, come on in, tell us how we're gonna save money and close down the school.
well, I think that, like anything, to have a Board of Education member come in here and do a presentation, it gives you a blast of information. I prefer to get the presentation up front and be able to review information first, because what happens, you get this huge presentation and you're a deer in the headlights. Well, hold on a second, where did you get this number? Hold on, you of all people, you're the numbers girl. You go through, you want to know where this information came from.
That's exactly what I would do.
And I'd like to see the information up first, so you can have credible questions to ask based on the information provided, and then you have a meeting. I don't know that the Board of Ed has actually made a motion to consolidate or made a recommendation, or I don't know that they've published in their minutes what they believe the estimated savings are.
So, so you're saying just have Brian come in more or less informally?
Well, I'd like him,
Informally, but I mean.
if we wanted to have him for our July meeting, that'd be fine, but I'd like to have him in first, before we get into a larger informational session with other boards and commissions, but I'd like to see the data first.
I'm fine with that, I agree with you.
So that we all, and I'd like to have the information a week before the meeting, not the night before.
Does it sound, do you think he's ready to do that by July?
Well, that's what we could
Yeah,
give him
you
the
ask
feedback
him,
is,
yeah.
if we asked you to come for July, would you be ready? Or would you like to come for audit? I mean, is this something that they're looking to do?
Yeah, is it just him, or is it the other board members that are interested?
No, I think they've had active discussions.
They have.
This is not just a singular voice.
Yeah,
They've had,
They had a long-range planning committee formed, and they've been discussing that actively,
For a while, yeah.
right?
I kinda heard about it, probably from him, or somewhere I heard
Yeah.
about it, maybe just, in passing or rumor, but I have kinda heard about it, probably in this room.
I think it's a good idea to get the Board of Finance involved, but with one thing though, is that there's a lot of members of the Board of Finance. And I don't know if that would be too much for all of us to be asking all of our questions of the Board of Ed all at once.
well, I think a meeting here first and for a presentation would be warranted before we go to, I think if you get too many people and too many questions,
Yeah,
everybody has their different interests.
right,
And their different ideas, and it could be, a meeting could be sidetracked and an hour or two lost on the specifics of an idea where other people at the table may not get their answers. But I think that if we were to ask, I don't think this is a let's have a meeting and close a school, okay? I think the community is gonna wanna be heard on this.
yeah,
And I think that it is something that is of such significance that it may be ultimately that if it were to be vetted, it may be something that the town may wanna consider at a referendum or at least a town meeting. I don't know that it's June now, you talk about having a meeting in July, school starts at the end of August,
yeah.
No,
that's
I
what
would,
we'll
no,
have
I
for
meant
this
just a
year.
meeting, not with the town, but,
so.
yeah, whatever you think, yeah, I would go back to
Well, why don't
Brian,
we
ask him
Yeah,
what he
let's see if he
thinks,
can
if
come
he's
in
ready
next.
in July, have him come in.
The,
But,
Like I said,
is there that many vacant seats in either one of these two schools?
well, their school population is down, I don't have that number,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it doesn't include that within their letter.
I know that they've said that they would be able to accommodate the students that we anticipate we're going to have within the two schools, that they would be able to accommodate that.
Meaning eliminating one
Right.
within the two, that's meaning,
Right.
I think I've talked with Brian casually, as this has evolved, I see Brian socially in town a lot. And one of the things that I always say to Brian is, well, you understand that it's a town building. So if you were to effectively close any of the schools, and I don't want to single one out, you understand that the maintenance and care of that building and the costs associated do not disappear. They transfer from one person's budget to another person's budget, unless you decide to eliminate the property and either sell it or demolish it.
Right.
I don't see that happen. I see New Hartford as a vibrant place which will continue to be a desirable residential community. I know that we're in a bad economy right
A lot of farm fields
now,
haven't been developed yet.
and the need for, classrooms with desks and chairs in them will continue long after we're gone.
Right, I agree.
The question
There's
is
a lot to consider.
how will we go forward? So the thought process of eliminating the school, its maintenance budget is probably, if that were to any one of the schools, to reduce their cost, could consequently
Just
increase
raise our
ours.
costs.
Well, it will increase
know,
ours, there's no
and
doubt about it.
the lawn's still gonna get mowed and and the heat's still gonna be on and you gotta keep an eye on the building and the building is in great shape. Just had a new roof on it last year if I recall, and
That's what I was just
put a
gonna
lot of
say,
money
we
into
just-
the building.
we just finished a lot of restoration work.
It is a wonderful school.
So what happens?
All of them
How
are in
many
good shape.
teachers are at how many teachers are at the Bakerville school? It's gotta be 15 or 20, right?
A bigger room? No.
Less? I mean, no, teachers and administrators and everybody.
Total employees you might be talking about.
Yes, it's a mess.
Yeah, maybe 2 or 3 kindergarten, 2 or 3 first grade, 2 or 3 second grade, 9 custodian,
10,
Secretary,
2, 11,
principal, 1/2.
No.
That
So-
far off.
No, but these are questions that would come out of a meeting with Brian that I think could be answered. And I think that he has, given some thought here.
Well,
but
rooms, they're music room,
things that we might want to
the
discuss.
library,
Okay.
So I could reach out to Brian to have him come in,
computer is,
and like I said, I
Same.
think we all applaud the effort for looking for savings for our constituents. The question is this a direction that the community, wants us to go in and what, justifying the savings, the perceived savings or not to the community. The last thing you'd like to hear is that, you know, you shutter a school and, you know, for whatever reason, you know, 5 years later, you need to add classrooms to Antolini, it costs you a multi-million-dollar renovation. But whoa, why did we ever close and get rid of one of the others when we had those 10 classrooms, you know?
Maybe
So-
just reducing the number of salaries, you know, might be enough savings, you know what I mean?
Well,
I'm just saying, I guess what I'm saying is
will there be?
could, you know, there could be
reductions?
savings for the education budget without closing school, right? Without shuttering school. Or is it, you know, so I'd wanna know, is there some intention to close the school and move the 9 to 11 employees to the other school? Or is he gonna get rid of those employees?
I think that if you're gonna move these kids there, they're gonna need teachers in the other buildings. There may be
So
some,
if all you're saving is the maintenance, then
Yeah.
you
The
are gonna
maintenance,
save
and there'd be a couple of personnel, like the
Few less
secretary
salaries,
and the janitor,
Yeah.
you know, a few personnel issues, the nurse.
Some of you
Yeah.
guys, you know,
So, and
I'm
then-
As
happy
for
to hear-
teachers, I
hear
think
you.
the teachers would stay,
it's really a detailed, you get into everything, transportation.
right?
You know, everybody knows I live on Willow Lane, you know, on Gillette Road, my children have gone to Bakerville, and if Bakerville is open next year, that'll be my daughter's last year there, eventually go to Antolini. But in the 1.5 or 2 miles that separates my daughter at the school bus stop from Bakerville, it takes nearly an hour to get that 1.5 to school every day. So if you're talking about changing that, will transportation time be increased, stay the same, or be decreased?
And would the
These are things that our
transportation
constituents are gonna wanna.
Yeah.
Well, and so that's why, it's a far-reaching discussion where
Yeah.
we really need to hear some information before I can, you know, develop a judgment. I'm a little bit
You
skeptical,
know, the other
but
thing
I'm
about,
willing to listen.
yeah, if you look at, you know, you said something about the future of more homes being built in New Hartford and the need for, if those, a lot of that land where those homes are gonna be built are in Bakerville. A lot of that, those vacant 100-acre tracts and 80-acre tracts of land, they ain't down here,
Right.
they're over there, so if, you
Well,
know,
there's a couple down that way,
yeah, where,
behind Kenny's.
yeah, behind Kenny's, yeah, you're right. But it's likely that, you know, Kenny's not,
There's more
Kenny's
over
not
there.
going, Kenny's not, you know, it's gonna happen over there before it happens again.
That's right. So I will send him a letter, or actually, I'll probably email him and see what his schedule is and see how they wanna proceed, whether he's prepared for something in July or, you know.
August or September, or whatever.
And then if he could get us the information, to have him forward it to Christine, make it available to you guys. My last letter, and a copy for everybody here, is a request, a continued request from Allison Murdoch for us to, or for me to consider,
Paying the bill?
paying the bill for Northwest Conservation District. I think individually you guys have all heard the sale of this one. I'm gonna give this a little bit more thought without going into too much detail. You know, I've been over it before with you, Alicia, and Christine, and I know you've discussed it with Jack. I'm not at all happy with the way this has occurred. We have a very specific purchasing policy in this town. And the town of New Hartford, especially when I have indicated to individual contractors that they are not approved contractors and indicated that they should not complete work. For those that continue to try to, A, complete the work after they've been told no, and then solicit additional boards or commissions to try to pay that bill. I don't know how they perceive that that process is correct. You know, I can appreciate what the Northwest Conservation District does for the communities of Northwest Corner, but I do not like the way that this was handled by their administrator.
No, I agree.
And, you know, if the town were to agree to pay every unapproved invoice, this town would be bankrupt. Okay, and this approval of this type of invoice sets a very bad standard for our town.
Well, there's an incorrect statement in here, that they say that you approved the study based upon the completion of the field house roof, and there was no
No.
such acknowledgement beyond a possibility of that happening, but even then, there was no such understanding of who would be hired to do the work, nor the scope of any work.
That's right.
This was a what if, and what happens when the field house roof was completed, then we would consider it. It was not presented in that manner, and it was presented after the fact, when work was done, when they knew full well that a purchase order was never signed, there was no terms ever agreed to.
No contract,
this
no
is-
scope of services to be provided, ever submitted to the selectman's office, nothing.
This is not how you do business,
No?
and I agree that this should not be considered.
What I would ask is that, you know, it sounds like, Dan, that you're gonna give a little more thought as to whether, you're able to pay the invoice. And what I would ask of my fellow select woman is that if Dan is able to come to, you know, a resolution, that we could maybe do it by email and get, our final approval or denial of it by email, because, you know, because our next meeting is not till July 24th. And, you know, again, I just don't wanna, belabor the issue, because I think there hasn't been a selectmen's meeting that I've been involved with where this hasn't been an issue of discussion at some point or another. So my hope is that we'd be able to just come to a meeting of the minds of the three of us, that whatever is decided, that we'd be able to, either call me or email me as to what you're, because I think the more, if you're able to, take another couple of weeks to decide, sounds like you wanna give it a little more thought, or you'd rather not pay it?
I think I
Jack,
respectfully disagree with you.
Okay,
This is not the way you do business.
right,
You do not control your costs this way.
right.
It's just incorrect. And there's no argument that anyone can make to change my mind on that.
Okay, that's fine. No, I'm fine with that.
Especially when you specifically have the email where you told the person not to do the job.
Right.
And they do it anyway, and then try to just find any individual board or commission to pay for it. I mean, specifically in writing.
Would you, or do you?
Jack, let me ask you this, if somebody were to come and pave your driveway tomorrow and send you a bill for 20 grand, would you pay?
No.
Without you knowing?
But, I would, but, my perception is that they thought that at the time, if what you just said was to happen, the person would be committing fraud if he came onto my property and he paved my driveway without my permission and then asked me to pay for it. And that type of fraud happens with driveways all the time.
Mhm.
In this case, it was without malice that the Conservation Commission and the other parties, they didn't go forward with this thinking, well, listen, let's try to, we really need $1,200, or we really want, we want to commit, a fraudulent act here on behalf of the Conservation Commission, or the Recreation Commission, or any of these other boards or commissions that are involved with this. I think they did it, in the goodness of their, they didn't do it, they did it without malice. So that being said, that's my belief. I mean, I'm not questioning, that
I
it
agree
went
that
out.
there was no malice, but that still doesn't mean that they should be paid for their invoice.
Well, I'm saying, let's pay them a percentage of the invoice. That's,
I had thought about that, and I can tell you now that part of, my problem with whole price is that we have a competent professional that bid half the price of what this person has tendered.
Sure.
But with no discussion from a board chair, a commission chair who has been told in the past and is informed of our purchasing policy, who also ignored the process.
Who was that commission chair?
Here didn't start naming names. But you know, the bottom line is that everybody has been informed and given the purchasing policy. Everybody knows their limits. This is not a new policy. It's been in effect for over 10 years.
Let me say this though. Let me offer this. What does the town attorney charge the town per hour? $400 an hour, $275. What's his rate?
Less than
$250 an hour, $200 an hour?
so 150.
Say 150. Okay. What, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I really don't. And my point is that if these people go forward to try to, you know, if they get some pro bono attorney who's involved with the Recreation Commission, involved with the Hartford Conservation Commission, or happens to walk in Brody Park, I don't know who they can get, but if they find a board of directors of one of these boards and commissions that's a lawyer, and he tries to come after the town for the collection of $1,200,
Jack, there's no contract for services that exists. There's no signed or approved purchase order, and there was a specific email to my office to the contractor to cease and desist and not to complete the work. Okay? I think we're on fairly safe ground here.
you don't think that we're gonna end
There's
up
not, I would,
paying legal fees that are exceeding $600, or you don't think that,
I don't think
You don't
there's
think
a
they have-
chance.
you don't think that she has a, that, that,
Anything that I would choose to do to pay any portion of this bill would be a gift. Okay?
well, I understand that, and that's why, you know, I'm here asking for that gift for them, because it just might be, I mean, again, I only know that the town budget is $5+ million per year, and I only know that, you know, 600% of $600 is decimal points of that amount. And it may, you know, show, you know, good faith on our part to say, hey, listen, you know, you did this without our permission, you didn't follow the purchase, you know, order agreement, you're not gonna be able to, you know, but here is something to at least cover their expenses, here's half of the input. It says it's in.
I can tell you that there are other factors that are under my consideration. Past performance of other work provided in my review and recommendations for revisions that were ignored.
Right.
Okay? Other correspondence that I had that I think that were not handled as professionally as I might have expected in some of my correspondence. You know, and I tell you, I take those in. There are plenty of people out there that are begging for work that would love to have a job in the town for $500 or $600. And everybody wonders why New Hartford maintains itself as an affordable place to live. It's because we don't waste money. We don't, you know, as the old saying goes
Does
from
the
my
house,
grandfather,
you know, does the
nickels
house-
add up to quarters,
Yeah,
and quarters
yeah,
add up to
little
dollars,
bit
and
equals a
dollars
lot,
add up
yeah.
to 5 million.
A little bit equals a lot.
You know, and it's watching every dollar and going down and hunting
How
down
is your
every
neighbor
electrical.
gonna be, Mr. Selectman, is she gonna be okay? You know?
I've met with my neighbor on this,
So she's,
and I think that she's advocating the best she can to try to remedy a situation that she probably feels bad about.
Can I ask what we're talking about, or what you're talking about, what was bought or paid for, and they want reimbursement from the town for, or?
Nothing was bought or paid for.
A natural resources inventory of
Brody Park South.
Antolini.
Oh, Antolini.
Mm-hmm.
So Brody Park South has been paid for.
Brody Park South is paid for.
How much was that one?
The technical studies that we needed were wetlands, upland reviews for wetlands and surveying work to further an evaluation and preparation of the site at Antolini, which we acquired through our surveyor.
For the ball.
For the consideration that will be looked at by our zoning commission. This work was not required work. It was performed without authorization, while we had ongoing agreements with other people and bids in place that were far more affordable than this. and when they were told not to complete the work, they continued it anyway, and then started soliciting it to other boards and commissions.
To pay for it.
Doesn't that take an awful lot of nerve? I wasn't gonna use that word, but.
You understand, I think you understand the debate.
Yeah.
And the specifics of the email that went from me to this individual was, as
No,
you have no
no, no.
as you have no contract with the town, I strongly suggest that you cease and desist, because there is no guarantee of employee or payment.
Let me ask a question, and I guarantee this will be my last one. Was there a contract or an email or a purchase order or anything that allowed for the payment of the first study that was done by the Northwest Conservation Group at Brody Park South?
That was done under a different administration, correct?
No,
That was his,
no,
there was verbal
that,
knowledge.
that was a request and co-funded through the Open Space and Conservation Commission.
So,
And then when it
do
was
I get a yes or a
and
no
then-
to my question?
Yes.
Yes.
And then when it was completed and reviewed, and I requested the contractor to correct inaccuracies in the report, my request was denied.
Right.
I
That was when she tried
reluctantly,
to say it was a preserve when it really isn't a preserve. Yeah, I got you. How much was that one, by the way, just out of curiosity? Was that $1,000 or $1,500 or similar or 3,000?
now it's like $3,000, I believe.
It was 3,000, because it was a bigger parcel,
Yeah. It's on file. in my
bigger
office.
report. Well, as you know,
Jack, I understand where your
You know.
sensitivities lie, and I'll take it under
right,
consideration.
okay, fine.
Alicia, I know what your opinion is also. And the fiscal year ends. the end of the month.
Well, I was gonna say June 30th, right?
Yeah.
June 30th,
So, I don't know
Okay.
where I land on it. I'm gonna let Christine yell at me for a couple of days.
yeah. Okay, and and you will advise us to where you,
Yeah.
where you touch down?
Yeah.
By email? Or, yeah, okay. thank you.
Christine will. I
Good.
wanna have an illegal caucus.
Okay,
Okay,
perfect.
that's all we, in terms of, that correspondence is, for what I'm providing tonight. We don't have any, do we have any last minute requests for tax refunds?
Nope, shouldn't have any today.
Opportunity for public comment on agenda items.
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Ken,
Dan?
Jack just mentioned the rec commission twice in this discussion, and I would like to know how the rec commission was brought into this piece, because my understanding, the rec commission didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, I thought they did, in that, wasn't the rec commission, the football field is why we were having the study, because to move the football fields?
No.
No?
In
Why was the study done in Area by
Last-
Northwest?
last December, as the study group, Brody South, I approached this commission and asked to fund the study. This commission said that they could not fund the study unless over money, because it was in the budget. With
But you as the
leftover
rec
money-
commission.
Leftover money
This subcommittee.
from
Okay. I apologize.
from the roof. This commission said that if there were leftover money, we might be able to do it this year. And if not, it would be maybe part of the next budget. I relayed this to my study group, which the rec commission did appoint. From there, individuals in the study group chose to spend, the Conservation Commission had $3,000 allocated to it. And the Conservation Commission chose to do the study of the 70 acres at Antolini. It had nothing to do with the study group, nor did it have anything to do.
I did leave that out, but I did
The
ask
rec
Dan
commission.
about that, and we had several emails,
I was
and I know that Dan,
clear to them that we needed to wait.
you know, when I start sending emails, sometimes, you know, the problem with emails is that you don't understand the tone in which it's written, but Dan, I did question you on this, how
Right.
could this happen, da-da-da-da, and Dan would say, I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm like, well, how does this go on? Believe me, there was a lot of emails about what was going on.
But at any rate,
It didn't go through the appropriate channels.
Yeah, the
Wasn't
rec
a rec
commission
I
And it wasn't,
backed
Dan.
off
I apologize.
from that issue.
So.
Because we were told
Yeah.
how the.
And I never,
to deal with it.
notice I didn't mention your
Right.
name tonight, I wasn't
I know.
trying to
But it was, the
Create
recognition
any-
was brought up, and I
keep the
just wanna make it
personalities out
clear
of
that,
But suffice to say that the study that we did have done with Michael Klein proved to be very beneficial, and it sailed through wetlands last night. And we hope for, obviously Ron Dufour, who did the technical work, to go through P and Z. So let's move
Yeah,
on.
I agree.
Any more public comment over here on agenda items?
Can I just,
Oh, go ahead.
when are you gonna do something about those trees up on Brody South? They look like hell.
I have to tell you, we have double expended the line item for tree removal. So we have no money left until, we have, Christine will attest, the list is long.
We have
And
like,
with
But are
all
they-
types of,
Are they gonna
well,
come down eventually?
I have to tell you, I met with Allison, who gives feedback to me on recommendations for Brody Park South, and she constantly wants to modify the mowing areas and talk about the
This
trees.
Allison, right?
Yeah,
Allison,
Conservation Commission,
Yeah.
who's charged with making recommendations for town-owned properties. And I did bring those trees to her attention. You're talking about the trees that were damaged by the bittersweet, that the tops have been pulled off. And I know that Alicia went in my stead. I had made an offer to umpire a ball game for some kids if they needed somebody, and they said, well, we'll keep it in mind. And then I had seen Allison in the neighborhood, and she said, well, hey, we're doing a field walk up at Brody South, our next Conservation Commission. And I said, well, I think I'm free. If I can make it, I'll make it, and we can do a field walk up there and see what you have to say. Because I have met her over at her place, and we've talked about different recommendations that she has in terms of how the paths go through in the habitat area and the different things. And when we've talked at length about it, but she wanted to actually go up there and see it. So no sooner do I say, yeah, I think I can make it, but I'll get back to you, I get the phone call, hey, you remember that offer? So I wasn't able to go up with her, but I called Alicia to see if she would go. And Alicia met and heard some recommendations of the Conservation Commission for mowing patterns, and I don't know how much you talked. Did you talk about any of the trees?
She thinks that they're still structurally sound, were her words. So I took it to mean she would not agree to any trees coming down.
I've had an arborist review, and I think if you recall, we did have a group of people that came, and I did have an arborist review the trees and the work that was done. And I will provide that for you guys through Christina. I'm sorry, I didn't think to bring it here. But basically what the arborist's opinion was, that if you recall the initial conversation about raising the trees up, the canopies up off the ground, is that no harm has been done to the trees. And actually the trees that have been pruned are doing quite well. Aesthetically, those that choose to raise the trees up do it out of personal preference. It's an aesthetic look. It doesn't hurt the tree. So some people, and the arborist actually says, he prefers a tree that goes to the ground, but you could do it either way. He did say that some of those trees are beyond repair. So, my point to Allison when we were talking and we were having a long debate about this letter was that, in my opinion, some of those trees could come out and could be replaced with, 8-foot Norway spruces in their place, and within 5 years or 10 years you wouldn't know the difference and they'd be gorgeous. But the thing is, like anything up that park, a lot of the lack of appropriate management and maintenance has led to the bittersweet taking those trees down. We're lucky to save the ones that we had. If we don't keep after it, it's just going to happen again. It's as the guy says in his letter, Mother Nature's a funny thing. It can get you real quick if you don't maintain. And if you left that property for another 10 or 15 years, it'd all be woods. It grows up faster than you can imagine. So the bittersweet, and there are some grapevines down in the northern quarter down the hill that really take keeping after, but we just don't have that much crew. The pruning that Don Burden does in there, I think is, and he even comments in the arborist letter, is that the pruning that has been done has been well done. And appropriate care has been taken, and those trees have been saved and responding well. And he says that certain trees should be removed. and I did mention it to Allison, of course, Allison, I think, comes from a perspective is that she is a passionate conservationist. And
Tree
she's,
hugger.
and you know what, it takes all kinds, and I appreciate Allison's perspective. She's been my next door neighbor for a dozen years, and I really appreciate her opinion. I don't agree with it 100%, because I think that our task is to make sure that our parks are there and appeal to the average New Hartford resident. Be they a senior, be they a youth, be they a tree
Dog
hugger,
walker.
whatever, a dog walker, whatever. You know, and I think that a couple of those trees could be removed and replanted with a couple beautiful Norway spruces, same exact species, in a couple of years, they would be magnificent. Because I point out to the fact, I said, when you park in that parking lot, that row of Norway spruce is really the focal point of the park. That's what you see in your vision. And what I see now
It's not
is
pleasant.
not pretty. It's not, and it does not live up to the standard of care of what I believe the New Hartford has come to expect in its parks. I think we are blessed to have wonderfully beautiful parks, and it could only be made better. You know, and I know that Brody Park South is a sensitive issue, and this board is moving to provide a solution on the field issue with a lot of help, and Dan's been after it for several years and spent a lot of time on that task force. But I think that those trees can be removed, and I know that there's several hardwoods standing dead that need to be removed. You know, but like I said, there are rules on line items and transfers and things, and that you got to be careful when you get to doubling a line item. I'm not sure the exact rules, but you know, you can only transfer certain money at the end of the budget. There's $20,000 limits, and our tree budget is $20,000, and we were right getting to $40,000 in that tree because of all of this work that happened with the October storm. I mean, obviously. So we turned the faucet off on tree cutting for a few weeks until we get to July 1, and then we start again. So, and I wouldn't be surprised because people's sensitivities over the last year have changed. People are now very nervous when they see these trees. Everybody used to say, well, people want those trees cut down now. People are marking trees in the road, kind of calling town hall. Yeah.
Just last Friday,
Yeah.
They were by,
Yeah.
Dave Rosengren lost
Yeah,
a 2-foot
Rosengren
leader on a
down there.
maple, and I know one on
Trouble.
someplace. Troubles.
one of the things that, just on the same note of Brody Park South, there's a bear with a cub about halfway down that trail.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
caught my wife off guard.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's,
Yeah.
so there's some other bear in there with at least one.
Gotta be
cub.
careful.
Yeah, gotta
The
be
bear habitat in New Hartford is very
careful.
lively. Yeah. So, anyway, like I said before, I really would think that a meeting, maybe a special meeting, kind of like we did up at Antolini, we could do a road trip meeting up to the park, and maybe Christine could facilitate something in a week or two. And we could get up there, and maybe, Dan, if you'd be so kind, maybe you could join us, or maybe John too, or some other members of rec. And we could talk about the field house and see that we have some funds going in there, get some recommendations, and throw some ideas around. And maybe we could segue down to, like we did last time when we were at Antolini and then Old Steel, maybe we could do both, and we can take a look at those trees and do it. There's a very specific procedure. Removing any trees along the roadside that could be considered a danger, kind of exempt from the process of barking trees and eliminating trees. But Christine and I did some reading up on a specific process on how tree wardens mark removal of, non-emergency oriented trees. So there's a posting process like anything.
Can I throw out a suggestion? I know that the rec meeting has been changed, you're not meeting on the 3rd, you're meeting on the 9th.
Correct.
At 7, that's a Monday night, I think?
It's a Monday night, yeah.
Do you think if you guys met at 6 and then they went to their regular meeting at 7? I'm just throwing that out there, is that something maybe we can try to facilitate? And then that way they only have to come out once?
I could certainly be there.
Yeah.
I'll try to
Night
throw
at the
that
park?
out. Okay.
Night in the park, right?
Yeah.
Is that a Wednesday? Is the concert going?
It's a Monday.
Monday.
Because they moved, they changed their
You
meeting.
can't do it on the night for concert. Stay up there for a while. Okay,
I'll try to send an email on that.
why don't we try that?
That sounds fine.
Okay.
So that was July 9th, Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any other business to come before the board?
done.
Donna?
A public comment. I just want to comment about the school consolidation because I've been hearing about it for a while and the group that was looking into it. And I think if it were to succeed and be a saving for the Board of Education, there would have to be a reuse on the part of the town for some other need that we have, or some other, whether it's the ambulance group, or, I will say that Bakerville is situated much more centrally than things over on this side of town, so it does offer a good use for perhaps some other group, but that is definitely something that, you know, long-term to make the decision. It's not that you can just take the input of the Board of Education that, oh, well, we can save this much from our budget. Your point about
Yeah.
somebody else is gonna
Right.
pick up the expense of the building, and then what are they gonna use it
I
for?
would love to have another use for the building, if that would go forward, it wouldn't make sense just to leave it sit.
Same.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it, like we said, it's a lengthy conversation that needs to be had, and a lot of, you know, I think some number crunching and really some input from our community. You have a school there that's functioned for over 50 years,
60 years, yeah.
and I think that the community's gonna wanna be heard, you know, on what their opinion is on that and what their love is. And like I said, I think we all, you know, really appreciate the Board of Education's willingness to start seeking significant savings in all areas. So I think it's a good thing to have the discussion. You know, I think the last Board of Selectmen led the charge to ask regional to consider regionalization, and actually forwarded the letter up there to make them conduct an internal study. And even though they decided not to go in that direction, I don't think that you can ever learn bad information by a self-study. So I think that the Board of Education is actually probably spending a lot of extra nights doing the hard work that their neighbors and constituents appreciate. Where that goes, I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out and what the savings are.
I probably see more of those schools than the average person does.
Yeah.
And Bakerville is in real good shape as far as cosmetically and quality, I guess, of what, you know, is going on. And I see the cellars, I see, you know, the corners, the nooks, the crannies and stuff because of substitute janitor. And that school, like you said, would have to be maintained, whether it was a school or whether it was just a town building. You cannot turn the heat off in that building and have it survive one winter. It would deteriorate so fast
That's right.
that, you know, you'd lose it. A couple of years' time, the building would be gone, literally.
They deteriorate very quickly, there's no
Yep.
doubt about it. And I think we've all discussed, but we have our last payment on the bond this year. You know, so, the town has invested greatly in the building, you know, over the years, and the quality and condition shows.
I'm not sure what the new roof cost, but that was considerable.
It's in last year's budget, it was sizable expense, it might have been
$30,000?
$20,000 or $30,000.
And that should keep it for another 25, 30 years,
Right.
just with the new roof on it, you know, so it's,
Well, these are never easy discussions, you know, nowadays in this economy, you gotta look under every rock and research every possible area for savings, and I think that the Board of Education should be, you know, applauded for their effort. You know, but I think that we need to hear the presentation and ask, you know, Brian to come and tell us what they found. Tell us what the things, and tell us about transportation, and tell us about maintenance, and you know, like Jack said, you know, staffing, you know, savings, and what the projections are, and that'd be interesting to hear. So, let's hear them out. Moving forward, gonna go into executive session. After we come out of executive session, I don't know if anybody wants to hang around, we do have a discussion about a rather poorly worded USDA change order contract that we're gonna probably tear to shreds and not approve. So, just if anybody's curious, we have the USDA funds, but we're gonna talk about that after because Christine's gotta go dig it out. So if we want a motion to go into executive session, I'll give you the 10-minute DPW summary.
I motion to go into executive session.
That is under review. Motion by Jack.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And we're gonna talk about the contract for the highway guys.
Me too.
Yeah.
And then come out, and if anybody wants to hear about the USDA thing, they can, don't feel like staying
Are you
on,
done?
send them an
Good.
email.
Good. Have a good night.